The dentist said I'm apparently grinding my teeth too much when I sleep. Oh, Malcolm replies. Been stressed out lately, kiddo? Deciding that you don't really want to go into it, you tell him that you don't think that's the case and it's probably just a random thing. He doesn't pry further, and instead begins reminiscing with you about the time you chipped a baby tooth because he accidentally knocked you over once. You go out for dinner and catch up on things, but you still feel somewhat distracted by the gnawing anxiety in the back of your mind. Though you enjoy your brother's company, you still feel like you want nothing more than to go home and hide from the world tonight. It becomes hard for you to try to stuff all of your horrible feelings down and go emotionless when someone like the dentist can see a fraction of what goes on inside your head. It leaves you feeling embarrassed and weak, and you hate yourself for feeling that way. You wonder if you're really fooling anyone into thinking you're a normal person, and then you wonder if your brother knows and is hanging out with you out of pity tonight. After he drops you back off at your apartment, you throw the night guard out. You can't stand to even look at the thing. And still in the shitter. It is a dry Sunday morning. You grab your morning coffee and scoot your rapidly growing kitten off your office chair, and despite her protests, sit down at your desk to check your mail. A new message pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda, and you remember your meeting in the cafe and awkwardly bringing up your feelings to her. Subject, hey buddy. Body, hey, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you sooner, but it took a while for me to get a hold of my folks back home. Dad told me to say hi, by the way. Anyway, I remembered what we talked about last time, and I saw you, and I hope you aren't insulted, but I asked my mom for the number for her therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her who it was for. I think she's worried about me now, though. Haha. Anyway, the number is 647-723-5274. It's a really good office. You should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. And if you're worried about money, don't be. They're one of the few that has a really good sliding scale fee system and won't charge you what you can't afford. I hope you're feeling better. It was nice to see you again. Hey. It's still early enough that you could call and make an appointment today. Your kitten curls up in your lap as you consider what to do. Well, we can't just call them, and we can't try our luck despite anxiety, so our options are sleep on it and see how you're feeling in the morning. Not keen on the idea at all, but you don't want to disappoint Amanda. Or we can close the email without thinking more of it. It's been embarrassing enough already. I will sleep on it. The thought of picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you're having a hard time lately and have motivation issues, but are you really in need of therapy? Shouldn't you be able to just get over it yourself? What if they put you on medication that makes you feel like a zombie? What if you go to and the therapist looks down on you? What will Alex think about this? Trying to think about all these things at once makes it feel like a very big deal, and you decide to take your time to think on it. The rest of the day passes quickly, and that night you have a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all these things. It's hard to get any rest that night. The next morning, you check your email again with blurry eyes and mewing kitten. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You are no more decided than you were yesterday. What now? Alright, we can't just call already. So we can call after wrestling with it or not call. Still very depressed, not seeing a therapist, not taking medication. But I think we're going to call. You read through Amanda's email 2 or 3 times, then sit and stare at your computer for a while the memory of that uncomfortable conversation makes you feel newly embarrassed and self-conscious. Part of you is also encouraged by the fact that she cared enough to get back to you at all. Sitting in front of your computer, you start to question things, like whether or not Amanda sent you this number out of pity, or perhaps some sense of obligation after having listened to you. You question her motives and the validity of her concern, and whether or not you think seeing a therapist would even be helpful. Yet, almost unconsciously, you reach for your phone. Your phone? And before you realize what's happening, you're listening to the therapist line ring. Before you can bring yourself to hang up, you're listening to the slightly clinical but not unpleasant voice of the receptionist as asking how she can help you. I'd like to make an appointment with the doctor. You manage to stammer out. The conversation is quick, and not nearly as unpleasant as you were fearing, and quicker than you can say Freudian slip, you've scheduled an appointment. Quicker than you realize, appointment day rolls around. What do you do? Alright, we can't just go to the office. We can head to the therapist's office even though you're totally unsure of what to expect. Sit in your car terrified and try to talk yourself out of going. Or just thought of the appointment ties your stomach in knots. You crawl back into bed. Still the same status. We've gotten this far. Might as well go. You have your first session with your new therapist, Dr. Susan Melville, a tall woman in her 40s with a disarming demeanor and patient eyes with the start of the slightest smile lines. She makes you feel comfortable fairly easily, which is a pleasant surprise after all your anxiety over the appointment. As soon as you leave, you make a second appointment. You're still skeptical about all this, but figure you might as well see where this goes. The hardest part, it seems, was taking the first step. You're still not sure if and how you're going to tell your family or your partner, but you figure you'll deal with that when the time comes. Either way, you feel relieved that you managed to see this through instead of being paralyzed with worry over it. Even if nothing comes of it, you did something you said you would do instead of flaking out or running away. You're emotionally exhausted when you get home and collapse into bed. You sleep better that night than you have in a week, and you're not sure if it's because you were so tired when you got home or if it's because of the therapist. Now you are depressed, interaction is exhausting, and you're becoming more and more withdrawn. You are seeing a therapist, and even though you doubt anything she says could make you feel better, but we're not taking any medication. It's early on a Wednesday evening. Lately, you've developed a nasty habit of waking up 10 to 20 minutes before your alarm rings, and unfortunately, today is no exception. You lay in bed, each minute ticking closer and closer to wake-up time, and passing on a swelling wave of ever-encroaching dread. Sooner than you would like, your alarm blares with caustic inevitability. You frantically pound the snooze button and then retreat under your blankets, as if the warmth of your comforter can shield you from the passage of time. You almost always have difficulty rising from bed, but today that simple task seems nothing short of Herculean. After several snooze cycles, you decide that you just can't deal with work today. You're incapable of even rousing yourself from bed, let alone going to work and having to force yourself through a workday. Not to mention, you've snoozed so many times that it would be impossible to make it in on time now anyways. Well, we can't just hop out of bed and get ready for work. We can head into work and leave early if it's unbearable, or call in. I'm gonna head in. In spite of the fact that your body is actively fighting you literally every step of the way, you somehow manage to drag yourself out of bed and make your way into work. Surprisingly, you end up only being about 5 minutes late, and nobody seems to notice or care. Though when you woke up, the simple act of being even physically present at your job seemed like an impossibility. You were surprised at your own ability to push on through the day. While you are far from enjoying, or indeed even really coping with the dullness of your job today, you seem to have slipped into a trance-like state of automation, and time is nevertheless passing. Eventually, the end of the day rolls around, and you head home, utterly exhausted, but at the same time, almost proud of yourself for having stuck it out. Oh, we got a little better. You are moderately depressed. You find it hard to focus on anything because you get physically and mentally exhausted very quickly. You're in therapy with a good counselor. You're doing cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, and they are starting to help. Still not taking medication. It's 2 a.m. on a Sunday, and you have work in the morning. Welcome to my life. You roll over to see the sickly green glow of the time displayed on your LED alarm clock and let out an exasperated sigh. You've been trying to fall asleep for over 3 hours now, to no avail. Every time your head hits the pillow, you're overcome with anxious thoughts that wrap themselves around each other. Worries about your job lead to worries about your future, lead to worries about your very identity, and you're unable to shake them off long enough to doze off. Your eyes won't even stay shut as your mind races through imagined scenarios going horribly wrong, which you promptly attribute to your general worthlessness. Your thoughts run too fast for you to come to a satisfying conclusion on any one of them. Your room is completely silent, but that silence has given way to loud static noise rattling around inside your head. Your heart beats loudly, and you worry it's beating a little too fast. You worry that you focus too strongly on your racing heart, you'll freak yourself out hard enough that you'll have a heart attack. You have to be awake for work in a mere 8 hours, and you know that your work is so much worse on only a few hours sleep. What do? Well, we can't force ourselves to sleep. We can't go to bed. We can't close our eyes and let it happen. Snap out of it. What's wrong with you? Nope. Probably going to work tomorrow exhausted and fuck everything up and get fired. These all suck. But status is still the same, so I guess we're going to the computer. Because sleep is clearly not happening no matter how long you lay here. You get out of bed and head to your desk. Laying in bed with nothing but your thoughts to keep you company makes you feel like you're going insane. The harshness of the light coming from the screen makes you squint as you turn it on, despite how often you find yourself in this exact situation. There have been so many nights lately just like this. As you begin reading a news story, an online friend of yours IMs you. You're up late again, I see. Yep, can't sleep. Again. Thinking too much again? Thinking? You guessed it. Want to talk about it? You end up talking with Attic for quite some time about how you've been feeling. He's always been easy to talk to about personal matters, and the added security of talking online helps. Being able to rethink what you say as you type it out and check it before you send it out helps you gather your thoughts, and you find it less intimidating in a way to type it all into a prompt and say it out loud. I don't want to be that guy who thinks they can diagnose something because I read a Wikipedia article, but it kind of sounds like you might have depression. You should talk to someone about that, like a doctor. You pause. Are you really that transparent? Or is it that you've gotten used to talking about your feelings at this point? Your insomnia makes you a little paranoid, but you shake it off. We can do some research and see if there's a good doctor near you. It's not like you're going to go back to sleep anytime soon anyway. Might as well do something while you're awake. Well, can't just pass it off as a low night. Well, we have talked to somebody about it, so you might as well say as much. Depression seems to have ramped up a little bit more. So we'll tell them we are seeing someone. Oh, okay. I'm glad you're taking that step. I've heard it's not an easy one. I know people kind of suck at understanding this sort of stuff sometimes. But there's nothing wrong with having depression. You shouldn't be ashamed to have bronchitis or something, so there's no reason to be ashamed if it's your brain that's sick instead. This is an important point. You spend a few more minutes talking with Attic about your therapy and your feelings about it. He's incredibly supportive, and you're happy to find that you have a confidant that understands your illness and is willing to lend an ear when you're having nights like this. A little while later, you fall back into bed, kitten in tow, and find it easier to drift off to sleep. Even in therapy, you know you're still going to have nights like these sometimes. It's good to know you have a friend who will help carry you through them. And we're back to moderate and behavioral therapy techniques that are helping. Next. It is a chilly Thursday night, and you've just gotten off work. This felt like one of the longest days you've faced in recent memory. Even though nothing exceptional had happened, a ton of minor things kept going wrong, and coworkers had tried your patience throughout the day. You considered leaving work early, but the last thing you wanted to do was deal with your insufferable boss on top of everything else. You're lost in thought on the commute home, and your feelings of frustration both with your life and the world around you build as you run into minor annoyances, like someone bumping into you really hard as they walk by. By the time you get home, you're exhausted, and remember that these feelings were ones you identified as negative feedback loop with your therapist. These pent-up feelings aren't dying down and are eating at you. You open your front door and stare at your apartment. An overwhelming feeling of exhaustion overcomes you, and you feel like your energy levels are low enough that you'll likely settle into a single activity tonight. What do? Can't shake it off. We can reach out or don't burden anyone. At this point, I think reaching out's a good idea. Your head feels too noisy, and you need to trade it for some actual conversation. Your therapist did say that it was important to reach out to your support network, so you might as well give it a shot. Who do you call? We can call our coworker Sam. He's friendly enough and could be a good distraction. This is also the first time all of the options has been open this far in. Your mother, she unconditionally loves you even though she doesn't always understand you. Alex, she's your girlfriend. Or Malcolm, he's family and fun to talk to. We'll go with the girlfriend. You dial Alex, who picks up only after only 2 rings. You ask if she has time to talk, and she tells you she's just hanging around in her PJs and is actually somewhat bored for once due to being caught up on her coursework. You try to figure out where to start with how you're feeling and are overcome with missing her face. You ask if she feels like grabbing some dinner, and you notice her barely contains surprise and delight from the other end of the line. You meet about half an hour later at an inexpensive diner not far from your apartment. While the food is not great, you're surprised by how much your mood seems to have elevated just by being in her company. While at first you were extremely hesitant to talk about your job situation for fear of being burdensome or sounding like a whiner, you see her listening intently to you with what even to you seems to be genuine concern. After winding down with a beer, you cautiously open up a bit more about your feelings surrounding your job and how drained it leaves you feeling. How you feel like you're simply existing, selling days of your life for no real purpose. Welcome to me 2 years ago. You surprise even yourself when you start talking about how frustrated and stymied you feel by your job, and how you used to feel passionately about things, but feel like all your energy and capacity for creativity is getting leached out of you each and every workday. You can't remember how long it's been since you've externalized this much raw emotion. The two of you spent several hours at that diner booth, long after your half-eaten food was cleared and the waitress stopped refilling your coffee cups. As you get up to leave, a sudden wave of self-consciousness washes over you, and you suddenly feel incredibly awkward. Then Alex stands up and grabs you tightly around your waist. You realize that, short of boring her with your seemingly endless rants, she's simply happy to have gotten a chance to spend time, real time, with you. It's been, by all accounts, incredibly too long since you've allowed yourself to open up to them like this, and there's an almost palpable feeling of closeness you allow yourself to hold on to as you go into bed that night. Still moderately depressed, good counselor. Alright.